I'm a human being, not an animal. 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 I'm a human being, I'm a human being, not an animal. 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 I'm a human being, I'm a human being, not an animal.
You and I are human beings, and we are also animals. Although we tend to think of ourselves as being alone on the planet, we in fact represent but a very small percentage of the animal life here. For every one pair of human eyes staring out, observing, interpreting the world around us, there are perhaps 20 or 30,000 pairs of non-human eyes also staring out, observing, interpreting the world around us. Given then what amounts to our minority status on the planet, it's not surprising that images of animals have been incorporated in human cultures throughout recorded history. Animals have been represented in religion, mythology, art, literature, poetry, music, dance, film, photography, in virtually every conceivable medium of human expression, in fact. Animals have become a kind of symbolic dumping ground for humans, for human ideas and symbology. They are often used as metaphors. The American eagle, for example, represents power or aggression. Sometimes they signify sex or come to represent the natural world itself. In many ways, animals are part of a diorama we construct for ourselves. We continually surround ourselves with images of animals, perhaps because we're not comfortable with the dualisms we've created between mind and body, nature and society. And so, much in the same way that racist human societies stereotype other races of human beings, human society generally stereotypes entire phyla, classes, orders, and species of non-human animals.
For example, there are animals which represent our own hidden fears and desires. Primitive animals, mysterious animals, animals which represent human power, aggression, even sexuality. There's a class of animals known as funny animals, animals which, by their very nature, elicit laughter or contempt.
We'll do it. Me and the missus.
And of course, there are inherently cute animals. This probably constitutes the largest stereotypical class of non-human animals in the mass media. And it's no wonder Americans keep about 75 million animals as pets, spending nearly $7 billion on food and health care for them each year. Advertisers use images of cute animals to sell us products for our pets. What's interesting, though, is that they also use these images of kittens, dogs, rabbits, to sell us other products as well. These images all subliminally trigger our paternal instincts. We see this poor wet dog in the rain, we want to take it home with us, maybe feed it a good meal. We certainly want to embrace it, and by extension embrace Goodyear tires. Perhaps most intriguing of all about these images of cute animals is their close resemblance to another popular media image, namely the human infant.
If a food gave your baby extra nutrition, wouldn't you buy it for him? What if this were your baby? Give him the extra nutrition of Puppy Chow brand puppy food from Purina. Don't treat your puppy like a dog. Feed him Puppy Chow.
Images of human babies and animal babies are almost interchangeable in many of these ads. They're treated remarkably similarly.
But stop right there, because human babies and animal babies are not treated equally in society. Human babies are not tortured, maimed, killed, even consumed in our society by the tens of millions each year. of course, whereas animal babies are. So what these stereotypes of animals in the media do is mask a profound ambivalence or conflict in our society between two very conflicting ways of treating and viewing animals and their role in human society. On the one hand, we incorporate them into human society as pets, as companions. We generally treat them with respect. On the other hand, coexisting with this first perspective is a much darker fascist perspective, or what could be described as a fascist utilitarian perspective. And this one views animals solely as inanimate objects to be exploited and manipulated for human use. Now, the way the media treats this conflict is often by not dealing with the issue or the problem at all. I've chosen two articles from the New York Times to illustrate this conflict. The first is Ling Ling's Lullaby, which appeared on June 6, 1987 in the Topics of the Times section of the editorial page. And it goes something like this. In finally giving birth to a healthy cub, Ling Ling, the National Zoo's female panda, cheers all who worry about the future of endangered species. The news is also something more. Finally, the quintessential hard luck lady has had a break. Ling Ling, as her fans will recall, was abandoned by her first suitor before she was ever seduced. Her second swain, the new cub's father, is a monument to sloth and good for nothing much but eating bamboo. This week, Ling Ling gave birth to twins. The first was stillborn. The second, however, entered the world yelling. So far, so good. The world celebrates and holds its breath. How sweet. Well, as you can see, it's a very anthropomorphic article. Ling Ling is described as a hard luck lady, down on her luck, abandoned by her first suitor, never seduced. You'll have to excuse the sexism here and the kind of lower class stereotypes that are being employed here. The new cub's father is a monument to sloth and good for nothing. The twins, one of whom was stillborn, the other of whom entered the world yelling, i.e. just like a human baby. So overall, Ling Ling comes off pretty well in terms of the way animals are treated here. A very different editorial appeared in the New York Times, though, just 2 months before this one, on April 21st, 1987. This one, entitled Yes, Patent Life, was a commentary on the subject of genetic engineering of non-human animals. It goes like this. Critics are concerned that making life forms patentable will give animal and eventually human life too much in common with commodities, leading to disrespect for both. But society has already passed that point. With genetic engineering, researchers can assemble a package of genes that may enhance a cow's milk production or improve its meat. Is that usurping nature's handiwork? No, because if a cow can be owned, why can't it be patented too? The changes so far contemplated, like leaner pigs and more productive cows, are the same gains breeders have always sought. It's hard to object to improving a species' inherent characteristics. More difficult would be the introduction of novel traits, a lion that could speak or a pig that could clean itself. In many respects, the genetic engineering of animals is the ultimate degradation of their integrity as living beings. To the editors of the New York Times, there's no moral issue to discuss here. The commonalities between humans and non-humans, which were celebrated in the Ling Ling piece, that is the fact that both humans and non-humans can have children and seek mates, count for nothing here at all. There is something new with genetic engineering. I mean, we've been torturing and killing animals for thousands of years, but this is the first time we've tried to actually manipulate their gene structure to recreate them in our own commodity-minded image. So clearly between the Ling Ling article and this one on genetic engineering, there's a fundamental conflict. In fact, there's a kind of schizophrenia or cognitive dissonance in psychological jargon. Now, even though these two articles represent radically different perspectives, and even though they appeared within 2 months of one another in the same paper, on the same page, or in the same section of the same paper, there's no mention of the schism between these two conflicting perspectives. None whatsoever. They're kept in very strict segregation. And in fact, there's a holocaust in our society an unseen Holocaust which the mass media generally does not address or even bring mention to. Between 20 and 70 million animals each year die in American laboratories, often in excruciating pain. In addition, 6 billion animals, 6,000 million cows, pigs, hogs, sheep, etc., are slaughtered in the United States every year for human consumption of their flesh. There's a holocaust of animals in our society, and it is a holocaust which, by its very intrinsic nature as an economic system, seeks to perpetuate itself forever. It is a holocaust with an elaborate propaganda system, an elaborate mythology, an elaborate socialization process to obscure this massive system of death from our view as a society, to distance us from it, and ultimately to desensitize us to the suffering of its victims.
Death can be found in many places, and death can be found to have many faces. The victim's gaze or the hunter's eye, or the mask of apathy's disguise. Death can be a luxury, and death can be a commodity, bought or sold or thrown away, or cherished and put out on display. Death can be a way of life, an institution or occupation, a half-truth or ignorance,
or the prize of one's own arrogance.
The meat industry spends hundreds of millions of dollars each year on slick ads like these, impelling us to eat meat. What was once the flesh of a living animal with eyes, nerves, and a brain is reduced to an anonymous commodity, and treated as just another vegetable or piece of fruit. The meat is filmed longingly, lovingly, like a sensuous art object. These advertisements work. Americans spend tens of billions of dollars on meat every year. Per capita meat consumption is up 400% from just 2 generations ago, to 600 pounds per American per year. Meat has never been more popular, in fact, the result both of intensive factory farming of animals, which has reduced production costs, and an intensive advertising campaign that continually reinforces society's myths about animals and meat. There's the myth, for example, that eating meat is healthy. In fact, we know that it contributes to heart disease and obesity. And on a societal level, meat consumption contributes to human malnutrition on a global scale. Animals are an extremely inefficient source of protein. Cows and other animals, which are fed much of the world's wheat crop and 95% of its soybean crop, return as little as 4% of the total vegetable protein fed to them. Another myth is that animals like to be killed and consumed. And still another insists that eating meat is macho, even sexy. The American Beef Council, concerned over what it perceives as meat's bad image, will spend $20 million in 1987 on ads like this one featuring Sybil Shepherd, seeking to seduce viewers into buying more hamburgers. Sometimes I wonder if people have a primal, instinctive craving for hamburgers, something so utterly simple you can eat it with your hands. I mean, I know some people who don't eat burgers, but I'm not sure I trust them. Beef. Real food for real people. How about death, real death for real animals? The terror of the slaughtering process is never mentioned in these ads. Absent too are the abominable living conditions. Hogs are so severely confined that some of them resort to cannibalism. Chickens, which normally have a lifespan of some 15 to 20 years in the wild, live only a year and a half in a commercial laying house. The meat industry spends $435 million each year on antibiotics alone, just to keep factory-farmed animals from dying too soon. Few know or care that the lobster they thoughtlessly plunge into boiling hot water has tens of thousands of sensitive tactile nerves all over its body, or that lobsters have a sense of smell 1 million times more acute than our own, or that lobsters, like other animals, have a complex system of nonverbal signals for communicating with other members of their species. We are increasingly distanced from the lives of the animals we kill. Technology has so automated the killing system that cattle buyers can now go to a video cattle auction. Auctioneers are able to rest in air-conditioned comfort, sipping iced tea, far from the sights and sounds and feelings of the cattle feedlot. Today, we look at a newsprint reproduction of a photograph of a video image of a cow, and we are 3 times distanced from that animal's life, 3 times removed from that animal's suffering, 3 times removed from the continuity of that animal's existence. French philosopher and mathematician René Descartes put forward the notion in the 17th century that non-human animals are nothing but mere machines, and that when they appear to cry out in pain, what in fact we are hearing is not the cry of a sentient being, but little tiny cogs turning inside of it. Very mechanistic, behavioristic view of things. Today, most of us realize that this is hogwash, pardon the expression. We understand that animals, non-human animals like us, are capable of experiencing a wide range of emotions and feelings, and in fact possess a kind of primitive, at least some kind of subjective consciousness. At the same time, though, we have an enormous economic stake, an enormous economic investment in the continued exploitation and suffering of animals. And so the way we resolve this question, this conflict, is by placing animals like Joe the cat here in certain categories. For example, we do have machines, which we know cats aren't. We have plants, which we know cats aren't. And we have inanimate objects, which we know cats aren't.
And we also have animals. And we realize that animals do not belong in any of these other categories. And yet we do put the cat in a category. And this is a way of, in fact, turning the cat into an object, a prop like any of these other objects. As a society, we are not very comfortable with thinking of ourselves as animals. And so what we do is we interpose an image of an animal between the animal and the viewer, in this case, us. Hi, I'd like to buy a lobster.
What size is it?
What size? How about a small lobster? Pound and a half? That's probably about right. He's got all 6 legs. His antennae are in good shape. That's a good lobster. Thanks. We better put him back in the water.
Is that female or male?
Yeah, it's a little small, but it's okay. All right. And let's see.
How do you feel, John, having power over life and death of this little critter? Master of a lobster.
I feel like a man. We'll need a little ice. Could we have a little ice? It's a long way to Long Island.
Okay, you're walking a long way away from me. Oh.
I don't know where you're going to be able to see them.
Okay, well, I can see you. If you can slow down a bit, I'll stand up. I just have to make sure I get a good foothold.
Mary, which is the bad claw?
The smaller one is the sharper one.
Oh, yes, that is. Maybe I can just pry the sucker.
Oh, shit.
What's the matter?
I'm getting a battery empty. Do it quickly. I know.
Uh-oh. His nose is messy.
Okay, go, John. Go.
Okay.